You're listening to the B-Town Breakdown, where we talk about life, art, local news, and all that jazz with your host, Alia Sinclair. Tune in for a new show every Friday at 106.5 KQWZ LP-FM, South King County.
Hello and welcome to this week's show of the B-Town Breakdown, where we talk about art, life, local news, and all that jazz. I'm your host, Alia Sinclair, and today we're going to kick off with a segment I call Food for Thought. In Julia Cameron's famous self-help book for creatives called The Artist's Way, she discusses the importance of what she calls artist dates. These dates are 2 hours a week spent nurturing your inner artist alone, just you, and whatever way you've chosen to nurture your creativity. These outings don't have to be elaborate. They can be a walk at sunset, picking out some special rocks, going to a different part of the city. The point is to listen to what the inner artist child inside of you wants to do. What is she inspired by? What sparks her imagination, gets her excited to play? Center your artist dates around these things, because creativity is a living thing, and it cannot give endlessly without being replenished. If you find yourself frustrated by your creative endeavors lately, if you feel uninspired, short-tempered, and disenchanted, you're probably trying to pour from an empty well. Instead of dragging your rake stubbornly across crumbling sand, focus on nurturing instead of harvesting. You will likely encounter some internal resistance. You may feel it's silly or overindulgent, senseless, or selfish. But recognize this resistance as the internal block it is, and pay it no heed. The creative mind is a sensory mind. It needs sight, touch, sound, and taste to thrive. So give it what it craves. Fill your cup so you can continue to pour it out and watch your life and creative practice thrive.
You're listening to the B-Town Breakdown, where we talk about life, art, local news, and all that jazz with your host, Alia Sinclair, at 106.5 KQWZ LP-FM, South King County.
Thank you for tuning in. I'm your host, Alia Sinclair, and you're listening to the B-Town Breakdown, where we talk about life, art, local news, and all that jazz. Today, I am here with local artist and president of Artists United, Jeanne Salter. Hello, and thank you for being here.
Hi.
So, I'd love to start with a bit of a TLDR of you as an artist, a little background on your work, and how it relates to the community. I know, big question.
I've been an artist all my life.
Mm-hmm.
I pretty much think I was an artist since I was born. And I lived in this area most of my life. I did spend 10 years in Canada.
Ooh. In our side of Canada, like the Vancouver area, or elsewhere?
Alberta, Canada.
Ah.
Yeah, the Bald-ass Prairie.
Oh. Nice.
I lived in a very small town for 10 years, and I ran a restaurant.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
My parents owned a restaurant when I was a teenager, so
Yeah.
small restaurant in the middle of nowhere club
Yay.
in southern Missouri. Yay. I got the artistic juices flowing.
That's right. I had lots of time to make lots of art. So I came back about 7 years ago and decided that I had been without other artists for long enough.
Oh, man, yeah.
And a friend, the current president of of Artists United at the time, approached me at the Burien Farmers Market and asked me if I was interested in joining their club. And I said, yeah, that sounds fantastic. So
You're at the farmer's market just trying to get some cucumbers.
No,
and before you know it, you're the president of our
I decided during the pandemic that I would quit my job.
Oh, nice.
And I would become a full-time artist.
Oh, I love that. I think the pandemic was really eye-opening for a lot of
Yeah,
people
it
in that way.
was. Yeah. So there I was. I hadn't been doing it very long when Paul approached me, and sounded like a great way to get together with other people. So that's how that started.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, tell me some about your work, because I know you've done a lot of cool things, from making, pottery in a barbecue to using recycled materials. Yeah. Tell me about your work as a whole, if there's any sort of cohesive thing that drives it. I know you particularly enjoy using a variety of materials.
I use a lot of mediums.
Mm-hmm.
I like to recycle a lot of things.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm a fiber artist.
Nice.
I make rugs and bags and baskets and those kinds of things. I like useful stuff lots of times.
Knitting always amazes me, because you're literally wiggling sticks and like a sweater falls out. It's like, how?
Well, I just learned to crochet, and I always say I always said I couldn't crochet or knit worth, and so I just learned to crochet, and I'm kind of obsessed with it now. Nice. And I've made a huge rug lately.
Nice.
And lately I'm just picking larger projects like that. I like minimalist kind of stuff, and what I mean by that is I like to take a technology back to, like, what is its basis. So when I started doing pottery as an adult, I learned to fire in a gigantic wood stove.
Oh, wow, that's cool.
I had a 3,000 square foot shop, and the wood stove heated the entire building.
3,000 square foot. Wow.
And it contained our tow truck garage, because we had a towing business, and our restaurant. And so in the winter, I could get the stove up, and we started firing in cans of sand.
Wow.
Just layering the pieces in sand so that they would be protected from the temperature difference, because we had a lot of stuff that broke.
That makes sense. Yeah, that's a huge... I recently watched a season of The Great Pottery Throwdown on HBO. If anyone doesn't know, it's like a competition show, kind of like the Great British Baking Show, but for potters, for pottery. And there's a lot about pottery I didn't know, but how often things explode in the kiln. I'm like, you go all that work, right, and it might not make it. I don't know of any other medium where it's like, well, this might explode, and you just like have to roll with it.
Right.
That's
right.
crazy.
Well, and I have a pretty good success rate in my barbecue, which is a $30 charcoal.
That is so cool.
Barbecue.
That's so creative, innovative. Yeah, and it works.
It works perfectly.
Well, when you think about it, though, we think like fancy schmancy materials, but people were making pottery like from way back.
And that's what I want to do, right? I want to take my technology back to pit firing, where I get the natural colors of the clay. I get to experiment. I add things to it to create different effects or colors on the clay. So I love all that experimentation. I've always thought of myself as mostly scientist. I'm an artist, but I also just love experimentation and building things and creating something new out of something old. And people just turn around and go, what?
It is interesting, the marriage of art and science. You often think of them as sort of diametrically opposed, but there is a tremendous amount of precision in art if you want to go that. I mean, that's the great thing about art. You can do it more intuitively, and you can do it very precisely.
I make my own art supplies all the time.
Love that. Are you like mixing paint?
I make my own crayons.
Oh, that's so cool.
I make my own paint brushes out of just things that I find laying around. Sticks and grass and things like that. So I've done it for a long time. I love experimenting with it.
Do you find that using more organic materials, does it affect your... It's a very ethereal question. I'm trying to figure out how to word it. But, like, does it affect kind of the energy of the final product? Do you find it has any sort of difference on it?
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. It has a huge effect on the energy of the material and the finished product, and when I'm using those materials, it moves me. Mm-hmm. It moves me. It's not just a paint by number. It's something else. Yeah. And knowing that I created those things, I created the paint, I created the brush, I made the paper. Right. That just drives me.
Yeah. Man, that's incredible to look at something and know I made not only the thing, but the thing that things are made of.
Yes.
That was life for most of human history.
Yeah, and I love that aspect of it.
Yeah.
I love it. Yeah. I love it. I have have had a treadle sewing machine since I was 13 years old, and every time I turn it or get it started and get it moving, the smell of it just evokes this. All of my female ancestors are standing around me every time. Yeah. It just drives me. It just makes it what it is.
That's very cool
for me. Yeah.
That's very cool.
Yeah, I love it.
I would love to talk to you about Artists United. If you could tell the good people what it is and what y'all do and how to get involved.
So Artists United is an association of local artists, mostly Berrien southward to Federal Way. We've been around since about 1949.
Whoa.
We currently have around 65 to 70 members.
Oh, nice.
And we get together the first Tuesday of every month at the Normandy Park Cove, which is a beautiful place. And we have a great time. We get together, we network. We eat some really great food.
Nice.
Every meeting has great food.
Yes.
Oh my God. I have to mention that. We have the best snacks. We always say that.
Snacks are an essential element of any gathering. I will say it now.
They're the best. So, yeah. So we get together and we always have a little contest and at our meetings, and we always have great social time, and we always have a fabulous presenter at the end of our meetings that does an hour presentation on some fun thing, either business or how to photograph your artwork.
Oh, wow.
Or, particular artists just showing their work and doing a little, we have people from inside the community, like our community, and then we have people from outside of our club come and give us great presentations. We just have a really great time getting together.
Yeah.
It benefits a lot of people. And my focus as president, I would like to get us out in the community more. We have started doing some farmers markets and pop-ups and things like that to get our artists out. We have our wall here in the museum, which we do quarterly.
Oh, nice.
So we have a different exhibition every season. My goal is to network with the community and to really get our message out that we can get together and make art.
Yeah.
And
Sounds like a tremendous resource for local artists. Can you speak more about, because you had mentioned the reason you got involved with Artists United was you were seeking out community. And can you talk more about the importance of community as a creator? Because often art, unfortunately, is a pretty solitary, lonely pursuit. And I think there's something to creative synergy when you get more than one person together creatively.
Yeah, it's really important that we get out in the community. I know a lot of really solitary artists, and I support the alone time, but I really think in order for us to thrive, we need to have conversations with other people making art. We need to discuss ideas. I don't know how many people come to me all the time and say, how do you do this? And how do you do that? And what is this medium like? And can you show me this? And it's a thrill for me to get people involved together.
Yeah.
I've spent a lot of my life as a solitary artist and craving community. And I think it's really benefited our artists. I've been in this club going on for 4 or 5 years now, and I started out doing the events, and because we didn't have an event coordinator, we had nobody to get people involved in outside community stuff, and I have just seen them just grow so much by teaching them how to get out in the community, how to do markets, how to interact with people. If you have an idea, let somebody know, join the conversation. It's just been incredible.
I do think that is something about artist and community, because for whatever reason, I think a lot of people, a lot of artists in particular, feel like they have to wait for someone's permission to do something, or maybe what they're doing is not quite right, or it can't, it's fine for other people, it's not fine for me. There's something about a community where it creates this sort of safety. It's like, no, what you're doing is cool, what you're doing is fine, there's no wrong way, bring it out into the light, share it around, and it gives this sort of safety and confidence to create more and to blossom.
Right, and it gives safety where you can ask questions, because there's lots of questions about, people who would like to get their art out in the community or sell it and don't know how to price it. Aren't sure if their stuff is good enough to go out. Right. And when you have community like that that can come together and give you positive criticism and positive feedback on how you can promote yourself and be more in the community, it's just amazing. It's just amazing.
Yeah, that is incredible, and I think it often surprises people when you get that feedback back. You're like, oh.
Yeah, it does.
I am okay, and this is good, and we can keep doing this.
It does. One of the reasons that I became president is because I was the question and answer person. How do you do this and how do you do that and how do I get into a market and how do I price my stuff and who can I talk to about this? And I am encouraging my members all the time to be involved with other members, even outside of our club. Stuff and get to know everybody.
Yeah, and sometimes resources. I mean, we talked about pottery. Having a wheel or a kiln or something. If one person has it, and then it's suddenly like share that. Or if you're I don't know, if you need an easel and someone has an easel, just being able to share resources is also huge.
Yeah.
How did you learn all these things? You became the answer person, but how?
Just by doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah, just by doing it. Just by putting myself out there. When I was a kid, I was fairly shy, and I decided around the age of 15 that if I wanted to get anything out of life, I needed to approach it differently. And I decided that I was going to start talking to people that I didn't know.
Good for little you. That's a lot of courage.
Putting myself out there, and now people confuse me with an extrovert. And they don't believe me when I'm like, no, I'd rather be at home making art.
I do know what you mean.
Like, you can come over, but
I really need some recharge time.
Just sit in my room.
But now look how that decision of little you has rippled out into that people see you the answer person and you're helping all of these people.
It's been incredible.
Yeah.
It's been incredible. I have so many close friends that credit me with sort of bringing them out of the shadows. And it's not anything that I do, as a, something I feel like I need to do. It's just me being me. I want everybody to make art. I want everybody to know how it feels, because it's healing.
Mm-hmm.
It just brings out all of the positive energy that we need right now.
Well, I did have a question about your creative philosophy, so you could keep talking about that. I do think there's something in creativity that is deeply human. There's something about being alive as a creative act, really.
Yeah.
And if we get so divorced from that for so many reasons, I think if we can find our way back to it and really embrace it, like you said, it's a very healing thing.
Yeah, for sure. And I think everybody has the capacity to be creative. And if you can make it a spiritual practice, all the better. I can't say enough about it.
Why do you think there is such a block both internally and societally for embracing art more cohesively? Other than capitalism, which I think is a big one.
Well, that is a huge...
It is a huge one.
Huge part of it. Huge. And I think on that note, I think that keeps a lot of people out of the mainstream and out of putting, they don't put themselves out there because, like I said, they don't feel like their work is that good, or they don't know how to price it or things like that. And it always comes back to that.
Or if I can't sell it, what's the point?
Right.
So many artists I know have the guilt of, I shouldn't spend time and money on this unless I can get ROI, unless I can get something back. And if I can't, then it's wrong, especially as you get into adulthood with more responsibilities, to spend the time on this. Have you ever encountered that? How have you worked around that in your own life?
I also decided at 15, when I decided I was going to...
Big year for you.
I had a lot of things going on then. That if I was going to make any money as an artist, I better practice production. So...
You got to do it.
I love to experiment. So if I do a piece... I want to do 3 of them, and I want to experiment with the materials. Mm-hmm. So if I'm working on a ceramic piece and I come up with a new design, I'll probably make 5 of them anyway. So because that's I want to see it all.
Yeah.
I want to experiment with it. So I started doing production, and I thought, well, I better sell this stuff. And when I started the Berrien Farmers Market about almost 4 years ago, I had 3 years worth of stuff because I had worked full time for somebody else, and I had done my art in my spare time, and I literally had 3 years worth of stuff.
At that point, you almost kind of have to sell. What do I do with it?
I have to. Yeah, I have to, because my tiny little studio room fills up fast.
But I love that approach of experimentation and like curiosity versus perfectionism, because that stops a lot of artists. If I can't, I was talking to artists last night about this, like if I can't do it perfectly, then I won't even start. And that just like puts up so many roadblocks.
Yeah, I'm so the opposite these days.
Yeah.
I started out in perfectionism, and I have slowly gone in the far other direction.
The thing about how many cool things you find with that approach, just being like, I'm going to make 3, I'm going to make 5, and I'm going to just do different stuff.
Yeah.
And it's going to be what it's going to be.
I'm just going to see how it goes.
Yeah, break out of that and I think that might also be related to capitalism, actually. Like, if it isn't done perfectly and it can't be, reproduced in perfection and sold ad infinitum, then there's no point. But my wife is a painter, and she was saying that the way she broke herself out of that perfectionism is she'll mess up a painting on purpose immediately. Mm-hmm. She's like, I'm going to put, lime green smear here. Oh, no, now what? And, then it's done.
Right.
You've ruined it, quote unquote, right? And so now you've just you can break out of that. I'm like, oh, that's so metal. Just like, I'm just going to break it on purpose. I love
the Japanese philosophy of wu-wei. Like, I like the perfection in imperfection. That's amazing to me. So in raku firing, when they use the tongs to get the pot out of the kiln to put it in the material that they're going to burn, it leaves a mark on the pot in the glaze. And that's a symbol of beauty in that piece. It's not an imperfection.
Love that.
If everybody knows about the broken bowls in Japanese art with the gold in them.
Yeah.
It's taking a piece that may have been garbage and reconstructing it into something beautiful, and taking those imperfections and just blowing it up. And
it's the art of going with it.
yeah, and I'm so much happier doing that.
Yeah.
It does help that my practice is like I feel pretty confident of what I can do these days.
That helps too. I, again, was having this conversation last night of kind of the ethereal nature of art. Because I posed the question, like, what do you do with the frustration that arises between what you want something to be and what it ends up being? And you feel like it's because of your own limited skills or what have you. But then I thought, what if it's actually art as an entity being like, not that, this, and it's just redirecting you, so you don't have to be like stuck on the idea, but it wasn't the perfect, I don't know, flowering field I wanted it to be, now it's a volcano, like what even but art's like, that's what it is supposed to be.
Yeah,
so
for
that's
sure.
what it is, and you
For
just
sure.
need to like go with it. I don't know, I feel like the act of creation is this balance between being completely in control and completely giving up control at the same time. You're kind of like letting it move you, but you're also doing the moving. That's very interesting.
I do a lot of stuff just by intuition. Just by intuition, and more and more all the time.
Yeah.
Just without a lot of thought.
Yeah.
I spent 3 hours on a painted sign on the. I also have a camera that I built.
Oh, that's cool. She mentions casually.
This is my big project. My big project is an Afghan box camera, and I painted the side of it. Usually they have photographs displayed on it, but you never see that with my camera because it always has a cover over it. But I painted the sign on it, and I spent 3 hours without thinking about it. Just in flow.
Just lost in it.
And I didn't eat, I didn't do anything but paint this thing. It's incredible.
Yeah.
And I spent another, I don't know, 3 or 4 hours doing a sign of the same stuff and for this business. And
Do you, because you work in multiple mediums, do you find that you have the idea for the thing and then choose the medium? Or do you have like, I want to work in this medium and then choose the thing?
quite frankly, it's usually a process of what do I need. It's always, since I was a kid and didn't have much, and had to make a lot of things for myself.
So like literally materially, what do I need?
Yeah. If I do I need pastels? How can I make them? The camera, the Afghan box camera that I made, started out, I made a pinhole camera when I was in my early 20s and taught myself analog photography.
Nice.
And when I lived in Canada, I had a darkroom. And when I moved back to Seattle, I didn't have a darkroom anymore. I didn't have space for it. So I needed a camera with a darkroom. And however I got to these two wacky videos that I watched, I don't know, but my uncle is a woodworker, and I showed him the videos, and I was like, we need to make this camera. And he was like, okay. Because he has no idea how any of it works.
Yeah.
Like, he built it for me, like the main part of it, and we've worked on it the last few years. But yeah, it was because I didn't have a darkroom.
Yeah.
So the darkroom is in the camera. And the pottery, I do that because when I was a kid, my favorite thing to do was buy handmade beads, and they were the most expensive. So I told myself,
make my own.
I told myself someday I would know how to make my own. And now I hardly ever buy beads anymore.
But that all rolls into your philosophy of making it, like going back to how things were in their original. And I love that. Like, I will just make it for myself. It's a very empowering stands.
If I wanted interesting jewelry as a kid, I had to make it myself.
Mm-hmm.
If I wanted interesting clothes, I had to rehab thrift store stuff, or I had to sew it myself.
Mm-hmm.
So I was learning all of these skills anyway. My family is very creative,
Mm-hmm.
and we were doing these kinds of things anyway. So I just adapted all of that. If I wanted it, I just made it.
So if there was a shy 15-year-old listening to this right now, out there in radio land, like what a creative, 15-year-old, what would you tell them? What would you tell that little kid?
Be as authentic as you can be.
Amen.
Be yourself.
Yes, be yourself.
Be yourself. Be unapologetically feral.
Yeah.
Really.
Love that.
Like, just go for it.
Yeah.
Go for it. Talk to people. Engage with people. Don't be shy about it. One of the things I love the most, which is really silly, is social awkwardness. I find it so endearing.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like most people find it like that. Don't be embarrassed.
Yeah.
Embrace yourself.
All your weird little quirks.
Don't wait till you're in your 40s
Yeah.
to really appreciate who you are.
Yeah.
know?
There's no reason not to embrace all of you. And I know there can be a lot of fear there, of rejection or this and that, and you maybe have already encountered it. But it doesn't, I want to say it doesn't matter, but that sounds dismissive of like the damage it can cause. But do you have any thoughts about like when you're young and you're rejected, or when you're older and your art or yourself is rejected, like bouncing back from that? But especially when you're younger, I think, and you don't have enough life experience to kind of know it'll be okay.
Well, I kind of feel like like maybe I'm not the norm, especially when I was younger. My grandfather was an artist. He was an art teacher. Even after he passed away, he's still my mentor. My mom is very artistic. So I'm the only one that's like that in my family also. So it felt special to me. So I don't really feel like I ever had a point where I was like, oh, well, I'm not really good enough. No, I've always been good enough.
Yeah, that's great that you have that mentality.
It sounds like bragging or whatever, but I've never doubted my ability to make good art. I just never have. Even when I struggled, with drawing and stuff like that, I still knew that it was okay. For maybe it was just my parents, encouraging me and keeping me going because they make art, or whatever it was. It never occurred to me that I could do anything else, really.
Yeah.
I have a funny story. My father married my stepmother when I was about 9 years old, and my stepmother's mother, I always loved my biological grannies. They're the best people. And this lady, she was different. She was different. Let's just say that. A lovely lady in her own, but she was different. She was not like my grandmother's. And I made a beautiful Christmas card for my mom. I designed it when I was 9, and she printed it off and she sent it to all the relatives, right? So this lady gets a Christmas card, and she sends me a letter. She says, I really liked your Christmas card this year. She said, do you mind giving me some ideas? Maybe I could send some out next year. And I was like, oh, that's really nice. Okay. So as a kid, I'm in a particular space with my artwork, doing a particular thing, and I sent her some ideas, and she lived in Eastern Washington. She sent me a letter back, and it was $1. Yeah, it was $1 in there, and the letter said, I didn't really like any of those ideas.
Oh,
but here's $1 to buy a new pencil.
Oh, what? What?
I remember distinctly as a child being like, what? What? And I know that most 9-year-olds would not necessarily have that reaction, like, what the hell?
Yeah.
Who is this lady?
And I mean, to tell a 9-year-old.
Everybody thinks I'm great. What is wrong with you?
Wow.
And I talked to my parents. I remember talking to my parents and being like,
What?
What show them the letter? They're like, okay.
Shrug.
And I said, they probably asked me how I felt about it, and I sent her a letter back with the $1. I said, I'm sorry you didn't like any of my ideas. Here's your $1 back. I have lots of pencils.
Nice. Yeah. Love that. I don't need your $1. I don't need your pity.
So at 9 years old, I was already convinced I was the best
knees.
artist.
But I love that. I love that sense of creative confidence, because it's not something you hear terribly often. That's wonderful. And that's an amazing story. I love that. Here's your $1. I don't need it.
I think that got her respect because her and I bonded over art for years after.
I love that.
Just in art.
Yeah.
She hated her own family.
But the sassy little artist kid she liked. I love that. Well, you've had a lifetime of making art. What are you most proud of in your creative journey?
I think where I'm at now, I think I'm most proud of that. I think the opportunity to help other people be more creative is so important.
Yeah.
I know what it's done for me.
Mm-hmm.
And it's saved my life so many times.
Yeah.
And the creative community has just been so amazing.
Mm-hmm.
My artist friends are the best people I know.
Yeah. Yeah. There's something to that common language or common understanding of the creative life that bonds people, I think.
Yeah.
Bonds artists.
Yeah. It's where
we all understand the madness.
Right?
And the trials.
Yeah. We all have a similar story usually.
Yeah.
Some struggle.
Yeah, shy kid, middle of nowhere, going through stuff. Art.
Yeah.
Saved.
Yeah.
Period.
Or they came to it as an adult and it
mm-hmm.
changed their life.
Yeah. Did you grow up around here before the Canada excursion?
Oh yeah, I was here. I lived in this area until I was 30.
Okay.
And then I lived in Alberta for 10 years.
And then came on back.
Yeah.
Has the Pacific Northwest influenced your art, would you say?
Oh, huge.
Yeah.
Huge. Yeah. I didn't even notice how much until I came back, really. I have huge influences from the native art. I distinctly remember going to the Asian Art Museum as a kid and seeing the giant, Indian and Tibetan statues of the women.
Mm-hmm.
That just blew my mind. My mom took us to art museums and all kinds of stuff as a kid. And
did your art change when you were in Canada in any perceivable way? Or your experience of it, even?
Somewhat. The materials and those kinds of things sort of changed. I was allowed much more freedom to buy paint and those kind of traditional supplies. So I had a lot of time to explore stuff that I hadn't really been able to
even owning
before.
a restaurant in Brazil.
Yeah.
Out of time.
Yeah. Well, it's a small town, so it wasn't terribly busy all the time. I mean, I also ran a towing company and a tire shop.
Oh, nice. Three businesses there?
Yeah.
Entrepreneurial spirit. I love it.
Among other things, yeah. Yeah, so it was a change in materials, a space to sell my stuff in because I had a little store. So I had a nice place to put my stuff out. I had lots of time to work on things and stuff like that. So yeah, it did change a bit. Yeah.
What are you working on now? Any particular collection or group of things?
I'm really excited about the camera right now. About the Afghan box camera.
Sounds really awesome.
Really excited. I wanna make a business out of it. It was originally designed for portrait photography.
Oh.
It's a style of camera that was probably used. I mean, anybody could build this. It had basic carpentry skills. Until like modern photography started to come around. In the 50s, the king of Afghanistan wanted pictures of what I assume was all of the military age eligible men in the country. And he commissioned carpenters and photographers to build these cameras and to take pictures of everybody. And of course they had to be, portable and have the darkroom in them. And
that is so cool.
Yeah, it's been a really fantastic project.
I guess when royalty decrees, you find a way.
Right?
Like, okay, how do we make a dark room mobile?
Yeah,
Let's figure this out.
and they were used until digital cameras were prevalent.
Yeah, I mean, what else would you need?
I don't. There's maybe one or two old photographers left in Afghanistan that still do it.
That's cool.
And they take their negatives into the shop and digitize them immediately. They don't even do it the old-fashioned way, where they take you take a picture of the negative.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's really fascinating.
That is really cool.
It's all art and science.
Yeah.
Together.
Yeah. That sounds like the perfect combo of art and science.
So I'm super excited about that. Like I said, it's been over a 3-year project.
Okay.
And yeah.
Digging in. So if anyone listening wanted to get involved in Artists United, how would they start? They just show up at a meeting, go to the website to figure out where it is and when it is. You said the first Tuesday of the month or
It's
second?
the first Tuesday of the month at the Normandy Park Cove.
Okay.
And we start at about 11.
Okay.
And we have a nice social hour, and then we have a quick business meeting, and then we have some more social time and our presenter, and we're done at about 2.
Great.
2 o'clock. And you can go to the website and find our information, artistunitedclub.com. Don't get those mixed up. United Artists is something completely different.
All right, noted. Yeah, so if you're looking for a community of artists, you want to figure out how to get more involved in the community or get your art out there, or even maybe just to observe if you're a little shy at first.
For sure. Come and hang out.
Yeah.
We've got some great people. Obviously amazing artists. Anybody can join, even if you just sketch. Even if you feel like you want to be creative, but you don't think that you are, because we do have people that show up that are like, oh, I don't do much.
Yeah.
And we go, come in. We all make art.
Yeah.
Everybody does.
I get that a lot too, and then you point out like, oh, well, you are a dancer, and they're like, oh yeah, I guess I am, or like, yeah, you are like an interior designer, like, oh wait, yeah, it's like, yes, you're actually doing art all the time.
You take snapshots with your phone.
Yeah. You dress yourself in the morning in a combination of clothes that you designed.
Right?
It's like, yeah.
We are all creative all the time, and I think we need to just open up to that.
And being around other people can really help with that.
Oh, yeah.
So come on down to Normandy Park Cove.
Please do. Like I said, you can go to our website, or my information, I assume, will be in the article.
Your name.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you can look me up on Instagram or whatever.
Jeanne Salter.
J.R. Salter.
J.R. Salter.
Yeah.
Yeah, great. Well, the last question I end with most interviews is, what's a personal mantra or motivational quote that you live by? And I know you weren't sure when you were looking over the questions earlier, and that's okay if you don't have one. Live long and prosper.
Yeah, right. There's actually a quote that I like. I wonder if I can say it right, because it's kind of odd. Something about dust exploding and thinking about itself. I can't remember the exact quote.
Like that's what
when
humanity is?
When dust wakes up and thinks about itself, or I think it's a sci-fi quote or something.
Is the overall point like that's what we are as humans?
Yeah, like
thoughts.
Yeah, we're just kind of, I don't know. Sometimes I think maybe we're just like this fine dust, and if you know anything about spontaneous combustion and very fine dust, you can just whip it into a frenzy, and it just explodes. When I grew up, my dad was really paranoid about fire because he's a firebug, and he always used to talk about the dust in our old house spontaneously combusting, and I could just imagine it just wakes up. The dust wakes up in an explosion.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. Charged with that energy.
Like I said, I think that everybody is an artist, and everybody needs art, and we need artists, and we need appreciators, and we need community.
Yeah.
And the more we can bring that all together, the better off we're going to be.
Yeah.
And I think in the future it's going to be more important than we know.
Yeah.
To get together and create real art.
Yeah.
Because we're all feeling the effects of so much manufactured idealism that it's not comfortable for a lot of us.
Yeah. Yeah. We don't want your AI art.
No.
We want people art.
We don't want to scroll through going, what is that?
Yeah.
No, that's not a thing.
Or how it can't figure out how to do hands. Like so hilarious. They just look like these clubs,
right?
tentacles. Well, yeah, you heard it here. Make art. The key to world peace was here the whole time.
That's right. That's right.
It was art. So make it, spread it, fund it, enjoy it, and we will save the world.
Get messy.
So, thank you for joining us today for the B-Town Breakdown. You can join us next week on Friday at 6 p.m. You can listen at 106.5 KQWZ LPFM, and you can listen to playbacks on the Highline Heritage Museum YouTube channel. Thank you, Jeanne. It was a pleasure.
Thank you.
Tune in for a new show every Friday at 106.5 KQWZ LPFM, South King County.